Introducing Evobane. Highly effective, pleasant tasting, eco-friendly, easiest to use product of its kind on the market. Fast acting, comes ready to assemble, based on sound evolutionology principles. Price to fit any budget. Amazing results every time. Part 1. One of the single most fundamental assumptions we make in these discussions is that some sort of theory of evolution exists. Clearly, this is something that we should not have to assume. If it exists, it should be available. Indeed, it must have been available in the past if it has been tested already, right? I would like to read it. I may be mistaken and I may learn something. At this moment, I do not believe there is an actual theory of evolution. I used to take it for granted. I've stopped taking it for granted. Until I see an actual theory, I shall consider it vaporware. We are continually bombarded with the theory of evolution says, or does not say, such and such. There's an easy way to find out what it says, if it exists. Somehow, we never see any theory consulted when these disputes arise. Why this is the case can no longer be a mystery. Part 2. Let us consider an oft overlooked aspect of the term theory in the English language. News theory, car and tractor theory, music theory, feminist theory, opening theory, number theory, particle theory, graph theory, game theory. Notice something there? The dictionary doesn't make a critical distinction when it defines theory. The meaning of the term changes substantially depending on placement. The theory of X refers to a single specific theory. X theory refers to a collection of ideas. This is the loosest of all known definitions, even looser than the common any old idea definition. X theory can incorporate any number of real, make-believe, and even contradictory ideas. Part 3. I want to point out another thing. When using the posterior application of the term theory, the implication is neutral as to the scientific validity. Germ theory is valid. Why then is it not the theory of germs? Because there's actually a separate theory for each germ. Think about that. Particle theory is what it is. It cannot all be true because some of the ideas are inconsistent with each other. I maintain some of the things we see called X theory are scientifically without any merit at all. I gave you a list of names. I'm not going to go back over it. You can pick out. The only time theory connotes merit in experimental science is when an hypothesis withstands scrutiny and legitimate testing. Such cases are called so-and-so's theory of such and such. The placement of the term differs. If I'm mistaken about how our language works, I'd like to see some counterexamples. I prefer older ones because skills, knowledge, and respect have been declining steadily when you're talking about English. Examples from partially literate sources will not impress me. Part 4. Does evolution theory exist? Well, certainly. I've seen tons of ideas involving different sorts of evolution. Is there a scientific theory of evolution? No. Some evolutionists point to the dictionary and a chosen definition. It may indeed differ from any old idea, but it is not scientific. It is improperly employed when the claim is made that a theory of evolution exists. Perhaps some dictionaries make the distinction. I'd like to see all of them do so. Of course, the language itself takes precedence over dictionaries in any case. Their job is not to dictate reality, but to report it. An essentially scientific task. I'll say it one more time. This is something people are most likely to overlook. Evolution theory does exist. In order to meet the scientific standard and be experimentally testable, a falsifiable hypothesis must exist. Part 5. If a theory should be presented, I intend to evaluate it. I intend to determine whether or not it is subject to experimental falsification and meets the proper criteria. A candidate theory should have been stated as an hypothesis and clearly recognizable as such. It will need to be complete. It will not consist of descriptions of a theory. It will have to actually be one itself. Telling you about my dog is not the same as showing you that I actually have a dog. To those who would sell evolution, here's your chance to present your theory. I think it's reasonable to ask to see the product, and one might even expect some degree of enthusiasm on the part of the sales staff. I admit in advance that I do not possess universal knowledge, and I make mistakes. By nature, my claim relies upon universal observation. If a properly scientific theory of evolution should be discovered, not some partial element, but the whole thing, what I said would be falsified. See? I know how to set an example. Part 6. I am fully aware that many people believe such a theory exists, and they write about what they imagine. Such does not demonstrate the existence of an actual theory. Such writings can be found anywhere. Anyone attempting to waste my time by supplying me talk about a theory rather than a theory will themselves be wasting their own time. I am only interested in seeing the alleged theory itself. Part 7. There's a phrase to avoid. Can explain, or can be explained by. Well, think about it. This is simply claiming a theory can be formulated which will explain something. Duh. That's why we have theories. A theory which merely claims theories are possible is redundant and meaningless. Candidates consisting of these phrases, or their kinsmen, should not be presented. Neither is this an invitation to compose nonsense and try to pass it off. We're told again and again that the theory of evolution has already been rigorously tested. A fresh new candidate is out of the question from the get-go. Some sort of extant theory is in order. if you are a sincerely scientific evolutionist, you might take this matter seriously and investigate how to go about formulating an actual hypothesis of evolution. I might even be persuaded to discuss why it cannot be done. Obviously, there's a loss of plasticity which would accompany the existence in writing. Part 8. I'll be honest and state up front what I'm expecting. I expect hostility and a lot of blatant overlooking of things I just got done saying. I expect to observe the antithesis of mature behavior. I do not expect to encounter a single evolutionist who takes the matter seriously. They certainly should, and if sincere, they must. This can hardly be written off as a mere technicality. But my experience as an evolutionologist tells me few, if any, actually do. The nonchalance we may expect to observe, an outright dismissal of the issue, places evolutionism squarely within the category of religious belief. In order to expedite discussion, I have numbered the parts. Should the inattentive rear their heads, they can quickly be referred to the sections which address the things they chance to miss. And a poor student I'd be if I couldn't learn from experience and direct observation. Trusting memory is not always wise. If someone has a candidate, I recommend reviewing prior to submitting. Finally, for those with short attention spans, ADHD, etc., my request is simple. Show me the theory.